We will be, I will help you. We'll be revisiting paragraphs 1 and 6. And today we'll be revisiting your first paragraph. I forgot to write you a note too.
I wrote a nice one.
Potter, are we gonna get time to work today?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna storm the
I
doors.
signed my name.
Like, please help me. Please.
Good.
Is this recording right now?
Yes.
I like
The reason I'm recording this hour is because last CIS, a student said something not good.
Like what?
Well,
We can't say.
Don't restart it. I had a good like model session right there for a second.
we were talking about
Oh, he paused.
what happened 2 years ago today, and a student said, "You remember that's when what's his face got fired for drinking in the parking lot."
Oh.
What's his name?
Keeper.
Keeper. Yeah.
Hated me.
Okay. No, that's not possible. Anyway, it's like no. So anyway, we're recording again. So
Wait, actually,
I really hope that wasn't recorded. Okay.
That's gonna raise suspicion.
Yeah,
I guess. I feel like he was here for longer than a month though. Because it's October 1st.
No, yeah, he was here for half a year.
Yeah.
That's not even right.
It's October.
Yeah, he left right as the semester was like ending. I still have like your next book where I PowerPoint on the Cuban Revolution that I never got to read because he left before I could turn it on. One day I was like, and I was this whole team thing in class. And he's like, I love the sign up time.
Yes,
I was like,
yeah.
and I
The
literally
hats
were
have
talking
like these
to
giant
him,
chocolate
and he's
drops
like,
on top that are.
and he's like, well, why can't you just talk first? So, and he was like being so mean to me. I'm like,
He literally would like pull up his
Oh,
document
you're not
around
waiting
the
at all,
side.
right?
Yeah, you're
You're going to tell them right now.
yeah, and then I had. Wait, what happened 2 years ago? Or 2 years ago?
Ankle
Oh,
scrunchie.
okay.
I'm starting to trend.
Those are my Lego almost, if anyone else wants.
My first thought was the time that we had the.
Yeah, my Lego.
That's like.
Yeah.
Ankle scrunchie. I know.
Especially in my grade.
It's a thing.
I was like, I know it.
I'm making it a thing right now. Starting now. Go.
2 years ago, the second Continental Congress.
Something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here we go. So yesterday we talked about the first Continental Congress, which was assembled in response to what the colonists perceived to be British abusive actions. And you remember that the first Continental Congress did some things. They including organizing, or at least asking each colony to organize their own military organizations, militias. And then yesterday we pointed out that the Battle of Lexington and Concord is now on, which means that the colonists have just engaged in a conflict with the British before crystallizing what the fight is about, right? There has not been any statement by any sort of organized group of Americans, this is what we're about. So I bring you the Second Continental Congress, which is going to do exactly that, right? This time, all 13 colonies are there. You'll notice the year. It's 1 year still before the Declaration of Independence has been formally shown to the world, I guess. Okay. I'm going to show you 3 things that this organized body did, or at least what it gave itself the responsibility of doing. Okay, so imagine here we are. We are the delegates being sent by all 13 colonies to Boston. Was it Philly? I actually don't know the answer. I'm going to guess it was Philly. But I could be wrong. Where was the Second Continental Congress? Okay, so hey, here we are, and all right. You two rows, we want you to organize the creation of the American military. Only they didn't call it the American. It was Philly. Okay. Philadelphia, the largest city in the colonies at the time. You two rows. Organize our military. Okay. Notice it's not a militia anymore. It's the military. And again, we called it the Continental Army, not the American Army, which is kind of interesting. Okay. So, and find a commanding officer. Okay. Find a commanding officer. You three rows. We want you to write a letter. Write a letter. Write it to George III. George. Who's George III?
King of England.
He's the king of Britain.
Oh.
Okay. Write that letter. All right. In that letter, we want everyone to chill. Just chill. Remember, Lexington and Concord has just happened. Open conflict. Can you talk the British off the ledge? You know what I'm saying? You two rows. What if George doesn't agree? Then you need to do two interesting things. One, create a Declaration of Independence. Right? Let's chill out. But what if that doesn't work? Let's declare independence. And if we're independent, that means we're in charge of us. That means we're in charge of us, which means we need to create a government. We need to create a government. Well, in order to create a government, you need a document that says how things roll. You need a bureaucracy. Who's in charge? All right, you two rows, you do that. Yes, dear.
What did the Articles of Confederation do?
What I just said. The Articles of, all right, so let's just go back to the beginning, and then we'll sort of look at each of these a little bit more clarity. So one of the things the Second Continental Congress did was organize a national military. None of this colonial militia stuff. These are paid soldiers, not volunteer weekend things that shoot at rabbits. Paid, this is your job, not on the weekends and then you go back to farming. You are a soldier. You're going to be paid, which means that this body also needed to figure out a way to raise revenue. How do we pay these people? We need to pay them somehow. We need to get money, which probably means they're going to borrow money, okay? And a Navy. And I think I told you yesterday the Navy ended up being 8 boats total. Still. And a commanding officer. And who was the commanding officer? George Washington. Okay.
How old he was at the time?
Anyone happen to have a quarter on you? An actual quarter? And not one of those state quarters. A regular quarter with the eagle on the back. Anyone have? Am I waiting for something in particular? Dime doesn't have it. You have a quarter. Yay. All right, everyone. This is Maisie's quarter. She gets it back. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. The reason. Does anyone happen to know where I'm going with this? Nope. Okay. On the money is symbolic. There are all sorts of symbolic things on money, including on the back of a quarter. There's the eagle, of course, our national symbol. But under the eagle, in his talons, are arrows signifying strength. But under the arrow is an olive branch. It's an olive branch. Okay, just take a look. Does anyone know the symbolic meaning of the olive branch? Yes?
It means to try and lend a helping hand or just trying to compromise.
No.
Isn't it a penis thing?
No. Anyone else? Peace. Yes. Peace. Peace. Chill. Let's not fight. We wrote a letter. The Continental Congress wrote a letter to George III, not George Washington, George III, in which they said, look, we realize that blood has been shed at Lexington and Concord, but we don't want war. Let's not go down that path. Okay, By the way, does anyone know why the olive branch is the symbol of peace? It is biblical.
Because aren't olive trees in like Jerusalem?
Probably, but what's the story? What does anyone know the Bible? Don't you go to Sunday school? What's the Bible story that involves an olive branch? All right, well, here it is in a nutshell. Now, just relax. I'm not preaching to you. I'm just sharing with you a story of that's in the Bible. But one day, God got mad and he made it rain a bunch, and a bunchy bunch. And but there was this one boat, and on the boat were this one family and a bunch of animals. And God decided to make it stop raining one day, but he didn't tell the family, right? So they didn't know. And so every day the boss of the boat would take this bird and he'd throw the bird out there and have the bird fly around and come back with any evidence that God was done. And one day the bird flew back with an olive branch in its beak, signifying land is out there, signifying God's done with the rain, signifying God's not mad anymore. Peace. Okay, there's your story. That was Moses. Noah! It was Noah! Okay. So anytime you see the olive branch, it's symbolic of peace. As in, dear George, let's chill. We'll chill, you chill. But look at the wisdom of the Continental Congress. They also had a contingency plan in case George wasn't interested in peace. He wasn't. Now what? Well, let's identify what we're doing. We're fighting for our independence. For the first time on paper, we declare ourselves an independent nation. Okay, that's a big deal. And this is how we're going to roll. Now, the original Articles of Confederation are very different from the U.S. Constitution that exists today. There was no president that exists today. There were no three branches that exist today. Each, well, I could call them now state. I believe that's the first time I've used that term. Each state, we're now independent. We are now an independent nation. Colonies are now states. Now, before I continue, just because you say you're a state, that doesn't make you a state. Hey, I'm the world's tallest person because I said I was. Doesn't work. You don't just declare yourself an independent nation and everyone's like, oh, they're an independent nation because they said they were. Right? My point here is this. When the United States declared independence, it was not an independent nation yet. In the future, when you have a history teacher ever, or American history teacher, or anybody ever say to you, what's the birthday of America? And they say, oh, July 4th, 1776. No, that's when we said we were an independent nation. The actual birthday of America is 1783. When I was young, when I was 6 years old, I remember being in a parade in 1976 celebrating the 200-year anniversary of America. But I said, but Dad, that's not right. Because America didn't become a nation until 1783. And he said, boop, because he's deaf and he talks funny. Okay. Each state got one vote. 13 states, 13 votes. Want something done? Win 7 votes. There was nothing about rights. Right? Understand what I'm saying to you. The federal government, the national government, the Articles of Confederation did not create your right to free speech and your right to religion and the right to free press and your right to bear arms. None of that existed. Those were what states did. States guaranteed rights within the state. There was no national Bill of Rights yet. Okay. Any questions on this side? Go ahead.
What happened? Wait, what was the thing in 1783 that made it that day?
Stay tuned. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else? All right. I am now showing you a map that I just like. There's absolutely no educational value. I just like it.
Stay out.
The world according to America. I think my favorite is Europe. Europe.
Parks, go see the Disney, McDonald's, everybody loves them.
Those are the main exports, Disney and McDonald's.
They wanted to destroy our good democracy.
Vietnam is over here somewhere. Awesome. Okay. There is one other thing I need to show you before we shift gears. I tried to get across to you this notion that the British fought wars with a different set of rules than the Americans did. And the British constantly were saying, hey, Americans, you're not fighting fair. And the Americans kept saying, screw you, we're not playing by your rules. And the British, for example, believed that you should fight in open fields, in straight lines, approaching each other directly. And to the Americans, like, that's insane. And I would argue the same thing that American enemies say to us today about the rules. Rules like you can't use certain weapons or you can't do certain things with prisoners of war, all that stuff. That there are other entities out there that don't abide by these rules. Now, what I'm about to show you actually has some factual validity, although there's some things are a little bit not quite right, but there's some validity to it. All right.
Did you make that map?
Did I make what?
The map,
Did I make that? No. Thank you for thinking that.
the random stuff.
Any of you ever seen The Whitest Kids You Know before? They're pretty.
Men, here comes the American Army. Let's look sharp. Remember, first impression is the lasting impression. My God, they haven't even got proper uniforms on. All right, okay, all right. No guffawing, no guffawing, no guffawing. Whew, here we go. Oh, I say hello there. Yes, hello. You are the American Army, I presume. Very good. Yes, I am Commander Livingston of His Majesty's Royal Military, and we are here to do battle. Although, I do believe that we did agree upon noon. Is that correct? It's not a problem. It's all right. It's just in the future when you say you're going to be someplace, it's and everything. Okay, very good, very good. Shall we have at it then? All right, would you like to take a few moments to get ready? You're ready now. They're ready now.
It's probably a formation there.
All right. No guffawing. I've said this. Okay, very good. Very well, since we are the assaulting army, you have the privilege of taking the first volley, right? And then we shall return, and so on and so forth. So, Godspeed. Let's have a good one, and good luck to you. All right, men. Now, let's show them what we Brits are made of. Stand your ground. Oh, you got one. Good shot. Very good shot, actually. That was Timothy. He's our maps and navigations expert. We'll be in a pinch without him. Good form. All right? Now it's our turn to take a volley. So, all right, men. Let's get ready. Muskets at the ready. And do me a favor. Let's have a little fun with this. Try and pick the one you think might be their maps and navigations expert, right? Right. Hey, no. Now you've had your turn. You've just taken 2 volleys, and we haven't even had one. Now, I know that for a lot of you Americans, this is your first parlay. But there are rules in modern warfare. We're not dumb beasts, right? Now, since you've taken 2 volleys, we will take 2 volleys, and then you may return fire. You're, in effect, losing a turn, right? Hi! Now you know the rules. I've just explained them to you. This battle's barely even started yet, and I'm down to only a handful of men. You're doing very poorly in this war, I might say. Now, we will take 3 volleys, and I do believe we should be allowed the privilege to move forward 5 meters because of your willful violation. Oh! Who took a shot at the CO? You took a shot at the... Reprimand that man! Reprimand that man! I will file a very important...
Yeah. Now, mostly that's not accurate. However, the bigger idea here is accurate, that the British self-imposed rules about how you fight, which the Americans did not abide by. The Americans would do things like hide behind things like trees and stuff. and the British believed that was cheating. And again, it's the British imposing upon these Americans these what the Americans consider to be random rules about how you fight. And to the Americans, like, screw that. We're here to win, man. Screw your rules. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Very good. My goal now is to revisit paragraph 1. So I need for you to retrieve all things Blue Book essay, including, even if you haven't even looked at it yet, this. So if anyone needs a new copy of this, it's right here. This cardboard box is always right there, and it is always full of sample Blue Book empty books. You're always welcome to take one and take a shot. Okay. Let's revisit what should be your first paragraph, which I never actually had you practice writing yet. I think I said it should be due by, what, Thursday? Is that what I said? Okay. Well, let's revisit it to make sure you're doing it somewhat. Okay. So I've shown you all this before. You've seen all this before, but I think it's worthwhile to revisit it because I think by now you'll look at it and say, oh, I get it. Oh, okay. Here's some material that one might use if one were writing an essay about comparing 2 Italian restaurants, one named Pepper and one named Amante, over 2 different categories, ingredients and atmosphere. And remember, I had you write a practice thesis statement. Does this ring a bell? Okay. And I basically showed you different possible answers. And I said, here's one. This paper will compare and contrast 2 pizza places. And remember I said, now how many of you wrote a thesis that's sort of like that? We all agreed it was kind of junk because it doesn't mention any of the 5 required parts. There must be 5 things in your thesis statement. 5 things in your thesis statement. Okay. If this is your topic, I need to see somewhere in your thesis, Pepper, Amante, atmosphere, ingredients, and judgment. All 5 of those things need to be in your thesis statement. And this contains none of them. I don't see Pepper. I don't see Amante. I don't see ingredients. I don't see atmosphere, and there's no judgment. None of the 5. Okay. And then I showed you this one, and we said, it's not bad. There's Pepper. There's Amante. There's ingredients. There's atmosphere. 4 out of 5. Pretty good. But what's the one thing it's missing? A winner. Winner. Who wins? It's not in there. I don't know who you prefer. And then I showed you, look at this one. Pepper, Amante, ingredients, atmosphere, and one's better than the other. Boom, drop the mic, walk away. Just walk away. Now, think about it. Zinn, Schweikert and Allen, Columbus, culture, or whatever. Just take out the word Pepper and put Zinn. Take out the word Amante and put Schweikert and Allen. Take out the word ingredients and put whatever your first issue is. Take out the word atmosphere and put whatever your second issue is. There's your thesis. Sort of. I mean, not quite, but that's the basic idea. Okay? How many of you now believe you could write a thesis statement for your Blue Book essay? Not this, the actual Blue Book essay. Why? Why? Do you know your 2 historical perspectives? One's Zinn, one's Schweikert and Allen. Okay? Do you know your 2 issues? Do you know which one you are going with? Then why can't you write the thesis? I don't understand. Are you just lacking confidence? I believe in you. Does that help? Let's visit what the first paragraph should look like, okay, or could look like. I'll remind you that there are 3 parts in your first paragraph: hook, roadmap, thesis. We just worked on the thesis part. What's the hook? There are many options. This is your first parlay, as the English guy in that video says. I know this is your first parlay. This is your first parlay into the attempted writing of a Blue Book essay. So I do not expect you to hit a home run with your hook this time. If you don't know what to do, just do this. Just ask the question. That's your hook. Your hook is the question. Now I'm scared to ask this, but do you know what the question is? If I were to call on you, could you say the question for our Blue Book essay is, and then tell me, could you do that? Because if you can't, I should walk down to Miss Donnelly's office and resign. I have failed. I have failed. Can you do it? Could one of you right now raise your hand and tell me what the question is? Go ahead.
Which historian is right? Or you agree with?
Okay. In essence, which historical perspective has the more valid interpretation of issue 1 and issue 2? That's your question. There's your hook. If you're stuck, write that. There's your hook. Done. But there are other options. How about an option where you're sort of setting the dramatic stage, like this one? It's 6:30 p.m. and this family is starving, but what will they eat? Well, why don't you do that? Billy is a 10th grader in American history class, and he opens the textbook and reads about Columbus, the brave and noble sailor who discovered America. But did that really happen? Question mark, da, 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 lightning, cat, meow. Huh? I'm looking at it like, oh, I want to reach for the popcorn. Put on a seatbelt because I'm ready to rock here. Okay, nice hook. With the white cat?
Yeah.
Lightning! Meow! Right? White cat. I'm an evil genius, right? Dr. Bad Guy. Okay. But there are other options. I've seen this before. Brilliant. Tell me a specific historical event that actually happened. Don't finish the story, though. Finish it in the conclusion. Start it here. Leave me wanting more. And then finish the story in the conclusion. Brilliant. Right? There's an option. The basic point of the hook is to make me want to keep reading. Keep reading. Okay? Bring me in. Make it interesting. Okay? Again, if you're stuck, just ask the question and move on. Okay? I'm not going to lower your grade because how disappointed I am in your hook. Not this time. Future essays, come on, be creative. But this time, move on. The next part is the roadmap. The roadmap is from 2 to 4 sentences. From 2 to 4 sentences. In your roadmap, I need to see what you're going to be talking about. Here's the roadmap that says that one factor is quality of food. The other factor is atmosphere. Now, for you, it's going to be whatever your 2 issues are. That's your roadmap. I said 2 to 4 sentences. This is 2. But you could have been 4. Zinn's view of Columbus. Zinn's view of whatever your second issue is. Schweiger and Allen's view of Columbus. Schweiger and Allen's view of whatever your second issue is. In the order that you're going to talk about it in the rest of your essay. This matches your essay. It's called organization. It's paper consistency. If you talk about Columbus first in your first paragraph, I better be reading about it first in your paper. It's paper consistency. Okay? Everyone understand roadmap? And then there's your thesis, which has 5 parts to it. I better see Zinn. I better see Schweikert and Allen. I better see issue number 1. I better see issue number 2. And I better see the winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay? Do you have any questions? Do you have a question? Yeah. You requesting me to do the cat again? Okay. Okay. Having said that, I'm done talking. The rest of the hour is yours. to write your first paragraph and get paragraphs 2, 3, 4, and 5 down. Tomorrow we'll revisit how you should write the conclusion. The tutoring center is open. I have received numerous accounts of feedback at how they don't understand what my words are trying to say, but they go in there and suddenly the clouds part and they get it. Right? It's suddenly, oh, I'm not insulted. Okay? So if you'd rather go over there and have someone look at your work, awesome. I'm happy to look at your work too. My only request is this. Before you come to me, just have someone else look at it first. Then I'd be happy to look at it. I'll be in my office. Okay? Off you go. This class is over at the end of mod 16, which is 206. 206. 206. Does anyone want this to stay up? You want this up here? Yes? Okay, I'll leave it.
I'll give you that list. It's in here.